to me, feels like more than entertainment. And it's something that I value really highly, and so it's something that I choose to do it's a small step in part of hopefully what will be a much larger process of destroying fascism all over the world. So that said, thank you very much for coming, and I'm just gonna play for a little while.
Hi, my name is Bill Fortenberry, and welcome to Load In, Load Out, a Toy Story podcast produced in Athens, Georgia, in association with Kindercore Industries. The opening audio for this week's episode was recorded by R. Sloan Simpson of the Incredible Live Music Archive at southernshelter.com. It's of this week's guest, Jeff Tobias, during an impromptu performance outdoors at Pulaski Heights Trail during a recent trip through town. These days, Jeff lives in New York. He plays saxophone with Sunwatchers on Castleface Records. Back near the turn of the century, Jeff toured extensively with We vs. the Shark, Nutritional Peace, and a host of other projects. When Jeff sat down with us here at the Kindercore Studios, we demanded he justify himself immediately.
So we're here with Jeff Tobias, longtime Athens resident, now New York resident. Give us a little intro to yourself, Jeff. Who are you and what have you done with yourself?
Oh, geez. I moved to Athens in 2003. Yeah. From Albany, New York.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I grew up on Long Island and then accidentally enrolled at SUNY Albany.
Accidentally.
Which basically functioned as like a sort of experiential slingshot that pulled me back so far that when it released me, I flew across the country to Georgia because I loved it so much there. Albany, New York. And then, I got to Athens in 2003. I was 20 years old. And at that point, the band We vs. the Shark had been playing for a couple of weeks or months as a duo with Samantha Paulson and Luke Fields. And I joined as their bass guitarist, and Scott Smith joined as the drummer. And that was like my main project for a long time. And I also started another band with Joel Hatstadt and Mark Dale and later Jeff Rosenstock called Pegasus's XL that I put a lot of time. Thanks, Bill. Put a lot of time and energy into. And I also I played as like kind of like a sideman in what ended up being a lot of groups.
Yeah. You were in Dark Meat.
I was in Dark Meat.
I was never in Dark Meat, surprisingly, but most people you run into in Athens were in Dark Meat for a minute.
Yeah.
I was actually just talking to Chris Deason about Dark Meat last night. Yeah.
What did he say?
That he was in Dark Meat.
Yeah.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah.
No, I told him, I was like, you probably have some great stories with Dark Meat, huh? And he was like, yeah, I don't know. I was like, would you like to tell them? No.
Yeah. Deason's not big on storytelling, I don't think.
Chris Deason's an internet recluse.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because he's got a sparkling personality.
If you can get it out of him.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, Chris Deason's so proud of his time in Dark Meat that at one show it was like in like a sidewalk somewhere, like a kind of like block party kind of scenario. He put his guitar down and walked into the woods.
Commitment.
Yeah. But I couldn't blame him. It was kind of a shit show.
He was, I never saw Dark Meat, but he was the main Dark Meat guy, right? Like he was a songwriter?
No, Jim McHugh was the main songwriter. And, Chris would contribute certain things, people like Aaron Jolly or myself or whoever would like contribute like horn lines or ideas. But yeah, Jim McHugh was the main guy, the main songwriter and organizer in that band. And he and I, and also Jason Robira, who was a drummer in Dark Meat, we now have a band together with the bassist Peter Curlin. up in New York. It's called Sunwatchers.
Okay.
And that's like that's now my main musical vehicle up in New York. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like played in a bunch of bands, and then around 2012, I enrolled at Brooklyn College and moved up to New York to get a degree in music composition. And I graduated a couple of years ago, and that's where I'm at.
Touring.
Yeah, and I've been touring a bunch. Oh, and I toured a whole bunch. I actually sat down and I tried to, I forget, like maybe a year or so ago, I was like, I wonder if I could list every tour I've ever been on.
Oh yeah, I thought about
That's
that too.
hard.
I can't.
Yeah.
I mean, and I try to even like have like a certain set of criteria. Like, couldn't it just be a weekend? Like, I think like a week at least.
Right.
And still like, and also they run together.
Yeah, it makes me upset that I never thought to, whenever I was like 16 and started touring, like jot it all down.
Yeah.
Write down every venue that we've played at.
Yeah.
That type of thing. That would have been great.
Yeah.
Should have done that, but
Yeah.
It's a little late now.
Well, the good thing about like Facebook and stuff like that is you can check in at places.
Yeah, you can put your digital history back together now easier than in the past.
Yeah. But you know, it's along those lines. It's frustrating that just to back up a second, last week my parents sold their house that I grew up in, and so I had to go and like pick up all my stuff.
Oh man.
You know? And one of them was a big container of flyers.
Oh, nice.
Cool, awesome, like great, like flyers that I designed, a lot of flyers that Winston Parker designed, definitely like, you know, some of your flyers.
Oh yeah,
Ryan.
the book cover ones.
Yeah. So, you know, band names, venue names, day and month, no years.
No year, I know.
No year. Never years.
Yeah. Now that I'm trying to assemble my past to like figure out like when did this happen? What year was this in? Seriously, years not being on flyers is actually really annoying in retrospect.
Absolutely.
It's a gift to the future when you put the year on the flyer, you know.
Yeah.
And go back and
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. Actually, I can't see you at all because you're listening to a podcast. A podcast we hope you're enjoying so far. If you are, won't you join us at Kindercore.com for some light shopping, or grab yourself a philanthropic thrill by pressing our high-tech donation button. In any case, we'd like to thank you for listening this week. And now, back to our show.
Yeah.
You got any
Well, we can talk about Churchill's. Churchill's is like
Miami?
it's still there.
It's still there.
Still there.
That's
There's
cool.
a new place called that I played last year, the year before, called Gramps.
The last time I was there, I was on tour with Pegasus's, and we were also on tour with a band called Bomb the Music Industry, which is led by Jeff Rosenstock, really great songwriter, awesome guy. This show was at Churchill's, and for anyone who hasn't been there, they should know that Churchill's itself is extremely unique because it's in Miami. It's in kind of like, you know, like a busy urban part of Miami. It's a soccer bar. It's like a British soccer bar. And I remember most of the dudes on the staff legit looking like they stepped out of like a Guy Ritchie movie.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like huge Union Jack on the wall. And so that in itself is kind of interesting, but it also is sort of, I think, like kind of like a destination for punk matinee shows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's where all the punk bands played.
Right. Yeah. And so we got there kind of early, and there was this bizarre open mic, which
I love the things you wander into on tour like that.
yeah. So let's see. There was a guy who had to have been in his late 70s, early 80s, wearing like a weird, ill-fitting baseball hat, playing like a really trashy Fender Strat, singing what could only be described as, I guess, like kind of like Tin Pan Alley songs about being a gangster or something. I mean,
wow.
Yeah, really strange. I wish Neil.
We're staring at Ryan's future here, by the way.
Yeah.
I can see it already unfolding in front of me.
No, this dude straight up looked like Harry Dean Stanton.
Oh,
like
wow.
he was
Yeah.
like a decrepit old weirdo.
Sure.
Then there was a drunk girl who said she was doing a magic show, but it ended up being some kind of burlesque instead.
Magic.
Yeah. Then there was a guy walking around.
Whatever your definition of magic is, that could very well
Open
be
your
magic.
mind, dude.
Yeah. It was totally bizarre. And then the show itself was great. One thing that I do remember is that Rosenstock went to the bar and asked for a water, and the waitress, it was one of these places where they charge you for water even if you're in the band.
Oh my God.
And she was somewhat rude to him, and he went into the bathroom, took off. He had just played a show. He was really sweaty. He left his underwear on the bar.
Oh my God.
You know, just like sort of like thanks for nothing kind of vibe. Sorry, Rosenstock.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, it was, but I mean, it's hard to describe.
The problem with that, though, is he's also cutting off his nose to spite his face, because that's one less pair of underwear he has
That's
on
true.
tour.
Yeah,
Those are
yeah.
precious.
And on tour, underwear is very valuable.
It's a commodity for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I think that this particular pair probably
They were
was
finished.
Yeah.
They were
Reached
at
the end of the road.
Yeah. They were weaponized.
Yeah. They were ready to get off tour.
Yeah. But yeah, it's hard to try to describe just how weird the environment was. I mean, it's almost like Lynchian, the like soccer hooligan bar in Miami, all ages show.
Yep.
People were kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
Like you could tell people were like sharing like one kind of drug, you know, like, and it was something weird. 'Cause you know, it was like, you know, punk kids, but then just like people who were just kind of like drunk and out of it.
Well, and I do think that that's something to be said about Miami, especially pre 2011, 2012, 2010, is because nobody toured down there. There was no reason to go down to Miami. So when you do go down there, it's this insulated thing where if there's a show, everyone's going. And so you get the weirdos and the, you know, like who wouldn't normally be at the show. So you typically, when you have a show down there, have this very, very strange group of people at your show.
Yeah, the time that I played there with The Agenda, we played in this place that looked like it had been a set for Miami Vice.
Yeah.
Like everything was mirrored, you know, like all the walls and the ceiling and a lot of the rooms had mirrors on it. And it was like a dance club that was clearly way past its prime. You know, like 25 years, 30 years past
Wood
its prime.
paneling when there wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, if there wasn't a mirror, it was wood paneling.
I mean,
on the
it was
wall.
so like, and it hadn't been upkept at all, but it was weird because it was like a disco night, but then they were having a punk night as a part of it. So it was like all these people that came to dance and do coke and like have the Miami 80s experience, except this was in 2000. And then a bunch of like, it was like the Paper Lions and Maserati and The Agenda, a bunch of like, you know, hard rock bands or whatever. It was the weirdest vibe, just the weirdest place.
That's where it's at.
Yeah.
I gotta say, you know, when things are like accidentally kind of coinciding at the same time, the things like that.
Events and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and also and I guess even though Miami is like obviously a really big sprawling city, like any kind of a circumstance where there's sort of a rarity to the event where you are the out of town band. Like, I mean, We vs. the Shark played Brownsville or McAllen, Texas. We played one and stayed in the other, or I can't remember which. That's like the bottom of Texas.
Right.
You know? And we played in a Mexican restaurant because that's where they were having the show.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of like, I think those are the most special shows where it's...
Was it a great show? Was there a lot of people there?
It was awesome. It was super fun. I mean, it was just sort of wild. I remember cutting an audience member's hair during the performance.
Excellent.
You know, like it
Sounds
was
about right.
Was it like punk rock, or was it literally someone just giving like, "Hey, I kind of need my haircut," and come up, set a chair on the on the stage, and be like, "Okay, I'm singing and cutting," like with a thing wrapped around him like a
a
smock.
barber,
Yeah.
barber cloth. Yeah.
No, it wasn't performance art.
That would have been great.
It was mostly just like this kid. I think a lot of bands have the experience of everyone in the front is getting wild except for the one sullen person.
Yeah.
And this particular kid had like the swoop.
Wow.
So
this was like antagonistic haircutting.
Emo-over.
Yeah.
Emo-over.
The emo-over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just happened to have a pair of scissors in my pocket.
Yeah, because
and
who
I just
doesn't when they're playing a
reached
show?
over and snip.
Wow. What did he? Was he excited?
Was he angry?
He was just sort of like
Did he just cry and leave?
I think he he definitely had I think it had the intended effect of jarring him.
Yeah.
Especially with We versus the Shark, a band where we were kind of like a technically
Kind of.
it was lots of notes and time changes.
There's definitely some notes.
Yeah. And I think
Not in a bad way. I like notes. But
thank you. Me
you
too.
had a lot.
There's some good ones. There are definitely some good notes.
There are good notes.
I think that music's always in danger of becoming more about the technical execution, some kind of like a wanky display or whatever, and so it was
feats of strength.
Yeah, so it was important for me for it to be engaging on other levels as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, have you had any interesting breakdown experiences, vehicle problem experiences?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go with one of those.
Sure. Okay. So this is one of my favorites. This was kind of a tour. It wasn't a music tour. Luke Fields, after We versus the Shark slowed down, he got into comedy.
Yeah. Yes.
Stand-up.
In fact, we want to get him to come in and do a little, because I'd like to interview some people doing stand-up stuff.
Yeah.
Too, so.
Like touring doesn't necessarily need to mean music touring.
Yeah.
Right. So he got booked on the Fest in Gainesville.
Okay.
Because they would have a stand-up show.
I believe we played the very first fest.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before it be, when it was just like a bunch of Gainesville bands.
Yeah. Shout
we
to
were
the
punk
Fest.
at all. We were just like the weird kind of nerd kids who were in a nerd band playing this festival with a bunch of like punk kids.
Yeah.
And so he was going to bring his confrontational brand of comedy to this
right.
group
Yeah.
of people that often take themselves a little seriously.
A little too seriously sometimes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So we were driving. I accompanied him, and we broke down in South Georgia, pulled off the highway.
Wait, what? Do you remember what city?
No, I don't.
I've had several experiences breaking down in Unadilla.
Unadilla?
Yeah.
Rough, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
It'd
be great if it were Unadilla.
Luke would remember.
We can pretend.
Yeah, ask Luke, because he has a much better memory than I do. But I do remember it being underneath. We broke down underneath an enormous Confederate flag. And so he called AAA.
And I can only assume at this time you were sporting your usual big beard and bushy hair. And,
that proved to be
what people in the Deep South tend to think of as terrorist chic.
Yeah. I mean, sidebar, I remember one time I was working at the Grill in Athens, and I had much bigger hair at the time and a much bigger beard. And this was right after Saddam Hussein's dead sons were published on the cover of all the papers. And some dude looks at me and goes, "That boy looks like the son of Saddam Hussein." It's like, oh, cool. I look like a dead guy. Anyway.
Like, don't tell anyone. The secret's out. That was a dumb
right. Yeah, I'm the third Hussein son.
Jeff.
Jeff
Hussein.
So the truck comes and tows Luke's van, and he and I are sitting in the front with the guy who's driving the truck. And we're driving into town, and like even that feels like an exaggeration, because it's basically, one main, quote unquote, main strip.
Right.
No one is out. No one is anywhere. There are a couple of storefronts, and we're driving into what you could call like the main town square, and we see another car driving towards us. This is the first other vehicle we've seen on the road. And like, this guy's not talking to us. He's kind of just like a stoic dude. And And as this car is approaching us, the guy driving our truck, he's like, what the hell is this? We're like, all right, what's about to happen? And as we're passing the car, we can see that the driver of the other car is a teenager. And the tow truck driver leans out and screams at him, "Get your ass home!"
It was his kid.
Yeah. And to their credit though, they got us up and running. We were like on our way pretty quickly.
And not late.
Not late. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was all
That's
good.
fantastic.
I mean, I can tell you like a much more exciting. This isn't a breakdown story. This is a cop story.
Yeah. That was
story.
I was going to cops next. So
All right.
Yeah, good.
All right. This is my favorite cop story. This was when We vs. the Shark was touring Europe.
Oh.
And we were trying to go to Poland.
Okay.
We had a show in Wrocław or Krakow, one of those two. And we were on tour with a band called Blackfish, and all 8 of us, plus the tour manager, were all in this one van. This was like an 8-hour drive, and we were late.
Oh, yeah.
And we got stopped at the border, naturally, between, I guess it was between Germany and Poland. And the border cop is a young guy, younger than us. And so he collects all of our passports, and then he opens up the side door of the van, and he wants to match the passports to the people in the van. Okay. So he is like, systematically looking at a passport, looking for that person. Neil Callahan leans, our guitar player on that tour, leans forward to who is sitting directly in front of me, and says to very quietly, very calmly, right foot. Next to foot is a bag of hash. And it's a clear bag, like you can see what is in it. And had this border cop not had his had he not had our passports right in front of him, his line of vision would have gone directly to it. Yeah. And so, we're all kind of like, it's like as panicked as you can be while staring into middle distance.
Sure, yeah.
Trying to sort of
imagine the scenarios that could unfold.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so does this sort of like, he it's like he's trying to stretch, but ends up looking like a Picasso. And it's like this weird, sort of tangle that he puts himself into to casually grab the bag and kind of just sort of place it behind him.
Yeah.
It's hard to, it was a real, it was an incredible contortion.
Yeah.
But he managed it, and without arousing the cops' suspicion.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Because in any band I've ever been in, if somebody had said, right foot or whatever, somebody would have gone, wait, what? What are you talking about?
Right.
Wait, what is that? Oh, this, and picked it,
Yeah. No one in We vs. the Shark has ever been accused of being like slick.
Yeah,
but
that's pretty slick.
Yeah,
I gotta say,
it was impressive. And so then this border cop, whose English is not very strong, he's like, he's trying to conjure the words. He's saying, I need to look in your backside, and we all just like burst out laughing. Even like the back of the van,
right,
and we're
right.
so we're laughing. He's laughing because he knows he doesn't know what he's saying.
I stepped in it. Yep.
Yeah, and so he goes around to check out the back of the van, and just down the hatch. Ended up like just making it to the venue in time, and this was like one of those this ended up being like one of the more instructive moments in my musical career in terms of what music's value can be. Because I most people who tour the States, end up kind of, I think, if you're just like on like the main circuit of indie rock and punk rock, you can definitely kind of start to feel kind of
jaded.
Yeah. Unappreciated.
Yeah. Thank you. You found
hungry.
The words. Yeah. So we get to this.
Starving.
Yeah. We get to this place in Poland though, and so the venue's in the basement, and the first floor is just like a killer, weird old bar.
Yeah.
And the bar is packed. The venue is empty, and we immediately just sort of we have to start psychologically preparing ourselves to play to no one.
Sure.
Right.
After
Like, you
all
wouldn't-
this travel,
like for
and
example, like at Flickr, like in the main room, in the bar room, there's a shitload of people, and you're like, oh great, there's gonna be a bunch of people coming over to see us.
Yeah.
And then you play, and like 3 people walk over.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were sort of just preparing ourselves for that after this harrowing drive, and as we started to sound check, the entire pub area, like to the person, just flooded into the venue,
wow,
and they were just waiting there to see us.
that's awesome.
And I don't think this was because they knew our music. I mean, I think some people did, but
They
I
were
think
excited to see a band.
It's of cultural interest
Right.
Right.
in certain areas. We were in New Orleans, and
Another classic city to feel danger in.
Yep.
yeah. And so what happened was I split off from the group to go visit with a friend of mine at another show that was happening earlier in the evening, while the rest of the band was going to get to the venue to load in. What happened to them was as follows. I actually never stepped foot in the place. Here's what happened to them though. They started loading in, and the venue people immediately said, "What is going on? Why is there a band tonight? We didn't know there was a show."
Oh, good.
And so Jim or whoever was saying, "Listen, here's the information. Here's the email. Like it's booked." And so the venue's sort of like, "All right, whatever." So it's getting off to on a wrong foot. And apparently, while they were loading in, there were some sort of like Dickensian gutter punk kids hanging out outside.
My favorite.
Just like, whatever, scrounging for change, being, street punk.
Probably
kinda.
after having been dropped off by their parents.
I don't even, who knows?
But yeah,
They're,
anyway.
they're upper middle class
Yeah.
parents. Yeah.
Yeah. And the owner comes out and he's saying, he's basically saying to these kids, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I told you. I don't want you out in front of the club. And so Dark Meat guys are trying to ignore this as this is happening. And eventually the owner goes, that's it. Goes behind the bar, gets a bat, comes out and starts wailing on one of the kids.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
So on that note, load in becomes
Yeah.
load out.
Right.
So they just decided, the band's just like, okay, we're going.
Show's not happening here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as they're loading out, the owner says to them, I don't know where you guys think you're going. This is the only white-owned bar in this area.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they're like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was this again? In New
this
Orleans.
is in New Orleans.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
Cool.
So we ended
Super
up
cool.
we ended up going to like this cool speakeasy to see another friend of ours play. Like the kind of like, it's like that kind of like after hours kind of jam where you have to like actually say a password to get in.
Wow.
Yeah, so it wasn't a total wash, but I think that definitely was sort of
How did you handle not being able to find another white-owned establishment? It must have
and
been
it was really heartbreaking for us.
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So, how about have you had any shows that stayed out in your mind as just where, like musically, where it just went completely off the rails? Like any memorable, the shows where everybody's equipment blows up, or somebody falls off stage, or
gets electrocuted in a
or
puddle of water
electrocuted
on
in a puddle
stage.
of water on stage, anything like that.
It's like it's like a buffet of stories.
Right. Sure. No,
You know?
absolutely. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Things go wrong so much.
Yeah.
So frequently.
Especially the weirder things that you do, when you're in a more, if you're just in like a rock band,
Yeah.
you know, like guitar, bass, drums, whatever. But as you
There's only
add
so much that can go wrong.
as you add additional instruments or like weird instrumentation or more people, like in a band like Dark Meat that has 1 million people in it or something,
Yeah.
you're just, you know, inviting all those things.
I mean, everything that you mentioned, I have
Yeah.
a story about.
Yeah.
Whether it be Samantha Paulson, when we versus the Shark was covering 5 Corporations by Fugazi, she would do like the Guy Pizziotto like lead vocal kind of thing, no
Yeah.
guitar, and on like the big, you know, climactic scream of the song, we're in a basement, no grounding, she grabs a pole and it's just like totally
Oh, my
shocked,
God.
you know, and like it's a scream. She's supposed to be screaming at that point,
Yeah.
and it's actually in
It was
pain.
a real pain scream.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you
he
know,
would've been
He goes from
proud.
like, wow, to, ah!
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, there's that. I mean, in We versus the Shark, it was always one thing per show. I would either knock over the keyboard stand,
Sure,
knock
I saw
over the
that happen a
mic
few
stand,
times, yeah.
or the bass guitar would fall off.
Yeah.
And there was one particular show where we had a minute-long song, and at the end of it, I was standing there, and everything was on the ground. I was like, what just happened? You know, it's like everything is short of your pants falling off.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
God, I mean, I remember band members falling off stage in Dark Meat.
Yeah.
I mean,
There just wasn't enough room on
yeah,
the stage.
straight up. Yeah. I mean, I remember Scott.
It's amazing when you think of bands like that it actually, the show people make it through the show.
Yeah.
You know, when a band with like 13 people, it seems like there would be something that goes wrong every
imagine?
single show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The logistical nightmare of being in the polyphonic spree.
I know someone
Right.
who's in the Polyphonics,
yeah.
Brian Teasley.
Yeah.
But I will say, and as a short testament to that, I've seen Broken Social Scene 4 or 5 times. Every time they have technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every time I've seen them.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that weird thing where rock music kind of like teeters on the edge of professionalism.
Right.
You know, and
Well, and that's what makes it exciting, the
Yeah.
danger. But
yeah, and frankly, I mean, sometimes when you see something that's totally slick and organized, it's
Yeah, it's
maybe a
gross.
little boring.
yeah.
Yeah.
And no offense to these guys, I'm sure they're nice people, but M83, when I saw them, it was too perfect.
Yeah, it's like
It's like I'm watching. I could put the CD on and watch pictures go by me, and it would be the same thing.
Yeah.
It's exactly like the CD. It's too slick.
yeah. Well, you know, here's a good injury story.
Yes.
So we versus the Shark got invited to play an Irish bar in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, on St. Patrick's Day.
Bill
I hear
probably
Bill
knows it.
giggling back there.
Yeah.
Bill, where would that have been?
Could have been a couple of places.
It wasn't. Egan's. It was Egan's. Not an Irish bar. Yeah, Egan's, sweet place. Love that place. And I think we were invited by the band Bakwai, but I can't quite remember. Yeah. And so we were like, sure, one-off show on St. Patrick's Day, whatever, fine, totally. And so we go out there, and we for the first thing that went wrong was an entire pitcher of beer went into Luke Fields' keyboard.
Oh, yes. Excellent.
Yeah, like it was
Excellent.
just short of it being deliberate, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just imagining someone walking up with a pitcher of beer and just going,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's essentially what happened. And you know, it was rowdy. People in Tuscaloosa are fun, and they wanted an encore, and so we played, I think, Territorial Pissings.
Oh, yeah.
Good old Standby, classic
Sure,
Chestnut,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, Standby.
Yeah, and so
St. Patrick's Day classic.
totally, yeah. And so as we're playing it, and we're like at the very end of the song, of course, people start like throwing themselves around.
Yeah.
And someone ended up headbutting me in the face.
Oh.
And of course, like blood starts gushing down onto my shirt and bass guitar. And then I go to the bathroom at the end of the song, and I'm like mopping up all this blood off of my face. And the owner of Egan's comes up, and he's like, "You guys need to do like 15 more minutes.
Oh, my God.
You know, we need, come on, I'm paying
Yeah.
you guys."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Just give me a second. I mean, I will. But just give me a minute."
Yeah.
Yeah. that was super fun. That's like one of my
great.
all-time favorites.
Yeah.
That's one of those things where in the moment it kind of might not be the best, but then you look back and you know there's kids from that show who are still telling that story. Like,
Oh, totally.
Dude, the bassist had blood running off down his face and all
Yeah.
his shirt. Like, it was the best show I ever saw. Like,
Yeah.
and you're just sitting here like, oh, yeah, that's great, but my
Yeah.
nose really hurts right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think like the booze, maybe, what do you call it? Kind of like,
It helped.
yeah, shouldered the blow.
It took the brunt of the blow. From
Yeah,
it.
well, it's one of those things where I was probably like, I'm fine.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
ugh.
Yeah.
It made the pain less, but also made the blood flow more.
Probably.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. But I mean, man, it's just like a constant thing. Electrocution,
Yeah.
you know, just
straight up injury. Just
yeah,
you know.
like being too drunk to know what the hell you're. I mean, I
Right.
think as you know, in Sunwatchers now, everyone's like a little bit. No one's like, kind of.
There's no loose cannons.
It's been there, done that.
Right.
You
You
know,
guys are old and jaded.
no, I wouldn't say jaded,
I'm
but
kidding.
yeah, maybe it could be accused of being old, but yeah, it's like, you know, there is a certain kind of amateur hour's over.
Right.
I think of it as like when you're touring in your mid to late 30s, it goes from like, how would I describe it? Like a bunch of kids getting drunk and playing Nintendo, right? Or like sitting on a couch reading a book with a glass of wine. And like someone walks in and you tip your glasses down like, yes, may I help you? Like that's how I see the two difference in touring. Like once you get over 30, then it's like you're all like, okay, I just want to go. We're done playing. I want to go somewhere, go to sleep. I want to read my book. Let's find someone whose house we're not going to have to sleep in a pile of dog hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
brings me to my next topic.
Right.
Strange places that you've stayed, or the worst places you've stayed,
Yeah. Yeah.
or the
yeah.
best even.
Unless you still got some more stories about being injured.
Oh yeah, if there's more injury.
Oh, man. Injury story. Oh, sure. Injury story number 2.
Yeah.
For me was playing in Slovenia, which,
Okay.
so, you know, I've only toured Europe this one time. It was a 5-week tour with We versus the Shark.
That's a good long tour. In
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
2 weeks in the UK and then 3 weeks in Europe.
2
at
whole
large.
weeks in the UK?
Yeah. I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
The agenda did 3 weeks in the UK.
Really?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. But y'all are kind of like, y'all have some Anglophiles in the band, right?
Well, and we were at the moment. There was a moment,
Right.
a flash, of
Right.
a moment where we were popular there.
Right,
you know,
right, yeah.
We were playing a bunch of.
Was
places
it
with
every
people.
night for 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Wow. Damn.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. And so
Slovenia.
which now from this experience of touring Europe, I found that the further out east you get, the more wild things got, because it's like
The further into Eastern Europe. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I think Western Europe has a little bit more exposure to touring acts.
And stability, maybe too.
Sure. Yeah. And another great thing about touring out in Eastern Europe is you play these former Soviet states, and they have these factories that have been turned into huge squats.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
It's amazing. I mean, because
awesome for us, but probably shitty for them, but still sounds cool.
no,
Yeah.
it's awesome for them.
Awesome for
Yeah.
them?
It is, because
It's not like oppressive, like, oh, we have to live in these squats.
oh no, these are like autonomous zones.
Okay.
Like these are spaces that, to my understanding, after the fall of the Soviet Union, like, groups of whatever kind of political affiliation, I don't want to generalize, but maybe like generally we could say like leftists, basically went to these factories and said, we want to live here.
Right.
We want to live here. And whatever the state in that time is, whatever state the state was in,
Yeah.
they would say, fine.
Right. I mean, because they probably weren't in a position to start policing things like that. They had other things to deal with.
Yeah, I don't know enough about the history, but essentially what
Like,
it is.
we're not using this building anymore anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's like a way to deal with them, like, let them hang out there, and we don't have to deal with them out here.
Yeah, and they built them out, and
Oh, wow.
they don't look like factories. They look like cool old fortresses that have enormous cool show spaces in them,
Oh, wow.
and also a bar and
Yeah.
a dance club and whatever, tons of people living there, families living there. It's actually like pretty sweet.
Yeah.
As far as the ones that I saw.
Like almost to the point of like, maybe I should move here.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, they're definitely shooting for some kind of a utopian kind of setting.
Just you never know if you move there at the time when the utopia goes to a
apart.
dystopia.
Yeah.
Right.
Like once it shifts over to the dystopia, that's what you always got to be careful about those places.
Sure. Yeah. And but I mean, I think we played a couple squats while we were out there, and the one little sidebar story that I think is emblematic of what life is like there is, after the rock show was long over, there was like a disco party that was happening, and at like 3:30 in the morning, all of a sudden all the lights go off, like all the lights in the squat, and everyone just starts laughing. And we're like, what just happened? And someone goes, we're out of diesel.
So the generators all went down.
Yeah,
and that was just party's over.
Yeah, and that's the level of autonomy they have.
Right. Right.
So
not on the grid.
And so we played in Slovenia, and it was a really funny show for a couple of reasons. One of which being that there was another touring band. They were from the UK, and they were like New York hardcore. They were like, they sounded like Madball, and they wore basketball jerseys and shit. But they were like, we want to see some bloody noses out there. Like, it was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, that is
especially
insane.
growing up on Long Island, you must have been super familiar with that. Yeah.
It like total cognitive dissonance vibe. But that was the show where I ended up on the floor with the microphone with a dog pile of people on top of me, and that was where I chipped my first tooth.
Oh, okay.
And it's subtle, but one of my two front teeth has like a little taken out of it. That's like, I'd say as far as like rock injuries go, that's kind of ideal.
Yeah.
Because didn't hurt a lot, good story, and the permanent damage is minor.
You didn't have to fix it.
Yeah.
You didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got your teeth knocked out, then it would have been a bummer.
Right? Yeah. And
and now you can think about it every time your tongue touches that little part of your tooth.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Yeah,
like, Slovenia.
And it's funny, there is a photograph on the internet of me from it's on the Alternative Weekly of Seattle, the Strangers website.
Yeah.
They have a series called Drunk of the Week.
No way.
So when Dark
we're gonna post this.
I mean, just
whenever we release this podcast,
Yeah.
we're gonna have the Drunk of the Week picture of you as the picture for the podcast.
Link on the website.
It's fine. It's fine. I mean, I have to own it, but So this was what.
Is the funny thing that you weren't actually drunk?
Oh no, he was drunk.
I mean, it was at South by Southwest.
Oh, geez.
And it was when Dark Meat was out there.
Oh. I think we were there at least one of the years that you were, and I remember running into you guys.
Yeah, and we were all like out of our minds.
Holy, yeah. I mean, we were too. Anyway.
Yeah, and so the pictures of me wearing nothing but red Umbros, crowd surfing, and this was right after I'd been on a Pegasus's tour where. Going back to the haircut thing, I had a part of one of our songs where I wanted someone in the audience to like just buzz part of my head a little bit. And so at this point, we'd buzzed most of my head except for like this like George Hurley of Minutemen like curly unicorn kind of a thing in the front. And so that's my haircut. And there's like confetti everywhere. And I've got this look on my face that could only be described as kind of like
bewilderment.
Yeah, like why? What? Like maybe like just waking up or something like that. Sure. And it's an accurate photo, except they photoshopped out my two front teeth.
What?
They didn't. They did. They like made it look like I was kind of like this like toothless.
Yeah. So we're like, we're almost there with this one.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and push it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Journalism in action.
Yeah. And putting it over the top, they're like, this is Charlie. He's in the band Dark Meat.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. There's the trumpet player's name is Charlie.
Okay.
Yeah. So I bet they like looked at the stage and talked to someone like, who's that one?
Right.
That's Charlie.
Yeah.
What made them think they could get away. Like, if someone goes to see the band, obviously you have your 2 front teeth.
No, they didn't care.
Yeah. And plus, there's so many of us. It's like,
Yeah.
whatever.
That guy's dead.
Yeah.
He's not here anymore.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. But so, yeah, just.
That's good stuff.
So you wanted to know about, you were asking me.
Staying at somebody's place.
Weird places.
I mean,
You know,
take your pick.
right. For real. I always like the ones where somebody goes, you know, at the beginning of the show. This happened to the Agenda a lot because people would see us play and then they would be like, because we were like crazy and they figured.
At the beginning of the show, they need a place to stay.
Yeah.
By the end of the show, they have disappeared.
Or they have
They're
a
not
million
there anymore.
reasons, you know. And I mean, the thing was, the ironic part of it is, you know, we put everything into that 20 minutes and then when it was over, it was like, okay, let's just go chill out. But, you know, I think they assumed we'd destroy their house or whatever. So, you know, we'd always get the like, you know, hey, yeah, it'd be great if you stayed at my place. And then we're over, the show's over, and the person would be like, well, here's the thing. So my roommate's sick, and I have to work in the morning. And I mean, you can totally stay. It's totally fine. But I also have a dog that bites everybody that stays here. That actually was a real, all of those things were happening in one place. But yeah, so go ahead. What do you?
Well, I have 2 iterations of a similar scenario where, and this happened to We vs. the Shark 2 different times, where we get off stage and this guy will come up and be like, man, you guys are awesome. You guys gotta come party. I got all this fucking Evan Williams and
Yes.
like we're just gonna rage.
The party night.
Yeah. And we're like, maybe. And then like some other person will come over and say, hey, you guys, if you guys need a place to crash, you know, I think we might have a couple people over, but it'll be really chill.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, and there's plenty of space and it's going to be really mellow. We're like, you're the person you want to
that's the
stay
one.
with.
Right.
And you go and they're the same place.
It's the
you know?
same place.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
The same guy.
Yeah.
Is hey, thanks for coming over.
You made it! Oh, cool! I know you weren't coming over. Yeah. So that happened once.
We're like, yeah, we decided you were cool.
Yeah. So it happened in Nottingham, England.
Oh, wow.
Where like the guy who was inviting us over was selling hits of nitrous for $1.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And we go over to the spot. No toilets work.
Sure.
And the room that I stayed in, the only bed was like busted and on a slant.
Yeah.
And one of the windows was broken and apparently had been broken for so long that 2 of the walls inside the house were covered in ivy.
Because they just grew in through the broken window. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was one of the places that we stayed.
That's nice.
That was pretty disgusting.
That's really fantastic.
I mean, it's like almost being exposed to the elements, I guess.
Right.
And then, oh my God, you're like all these. I'm getting other memories coming back. So the other time that happened, we ended up. It was a guy who was like, "You gotta come over and check out the studio, man."
Oh,
this is
yeah.
in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay.
And his studio was like basically a small room with a boombox in it.
Sure.
You know,
A
and
studio.
like one page of a porno stuck to the wall. You know, and we slept above a chicken coop.
Oh, I bet it smelled great.
Yeah. It was
fantastic.
like chicken coop and then like guest room or something
God.
like that. But now I'm remembering another St. Patrick's Day show in Fort Worth, Texas. Fort Worth kind of became like our, like, I don't know what you'd call it. Like just sort of like, oh, we're booked there. Let's do it.
Fine. Right.
Yeah.
Like nothing ever goes right here, but
Yeah.
let's just do it again.
And we played.
Philly has always been that for me, but it's mostly
Really?
been sound people in Philly.
Okay. Yeah.
It's always the sound person in Philly is the problem.
Bill. You all right, Bill? No.
Not you, Bill. Which we're playing Kung Fu Necktie again this next tour coming up, and that was where we've always had problems with sound people.
Yeah. They're argumentative there. But so this was a house show for Bomb the Music Industry and We vs. the Shark. And it was a house that we discovered had been inherited by like a 19-year-old. And he was living in it by himself. And, you know, like lawn is overgrown.
Sure.
There's a dog who is sick, you know, and we show up and we're just kind of like assessing the situation. Like, this is kind of sketchy. And we're, you know, making conversation like, oh, who are the local acts?
Yeah.
And this guy's like, oh, man, you guys are really lucky. Mildew is the local act. Mildew is sick. Mildew's awesome.
Literally.
Yeah, we're like, what's up with Mildew? It's like, Mildew's a rapper, man. Mildew's amazing.
Wow.
Mildew ended up being kind of like if Everlast from House of Pain had like 1/100th of the vocabulary and sort of like maybe never made it past like middle school education.
Okay.
You know, like
Yeah.
you're kind of like local, like less like a local artist and more kind of like a local freak show kind of a character,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So he's strumming an out-of-tune acoustic guitar and it's
And
these sort
rapping?
of rapping and it's like
wow.
pretty profane and like unimaginative.
Of course.
And we're just sort of, and everyone's like, it's all these high school kids like laughing.
And they think it's the best.
It's like,
thing ever.
this is a dark scene.
Yeah.
This is a dark scene. And so we versus the Shark, we play our set. We basically like have like, people are kind of like plastered against the back wall. Like they're just sort of like
too loud.
It's
too
loud
much,
and we're annoyed and it's aggressive.
yeah.
And so we, it's one of these kind of confrontational sets. And so we finish our last song and it's like, boom, last note. And the guy runs in and goes, Mildew's on the roof, y'all.
Oh my God.
You know? And we're like, yeah. Thanks a lot,
Mildew's
everyone.
on the
Mildew's
roof.
on the roof.
Yeah.
Let's all check out Mildew.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
One of the We vs. the Sharks last shows was playing the fest in Gainesville. And we were one of like, I think it was like us, a second to last with Japanther playing after us. And that,
I forgot about that band.
Yeah.
They were great.
Yeah. And that's one of my all-time favorite shows just in terms of wildness. Like the audience knocking down the mic stands a lot, naked guy getting on stage, like this like complete, like at that point we were at our most aggressive and that was the response we'd always kind of wanted. And it was really gratifying to be getting it in like this festival environment. I mean, I remember seeing an amazing show that Bomb the Music Industry played at that same festival. Bomb the Music Industry had like a rotating cast of members. And at this particular show, the drummer quit or decided he couldn't go on the tour right before they decided to go down. And they had a headlining slot at the fest.
Yeah.
And they were rotating, bringing in other like drummers, like
From the other bands that were playing Fest?
yeah, or the bass player,
Right.
of the band. It was like a total, like everyone on stage was like, what is going on? Like, why are we doing this? And so Scott Smith from We vs. the Shark was there, and he gets up, because it's his turn, and he's like, I don't know any of your songs.
Yeah.
And Rosenstock goes, yeah, but you're from Athens. Let's play Holland 1945.
Oh my God.
And so he's like, okay, I know that. Counts into it. No one in the band knows any of the chords.
Oh my
except
gosh.
for Rosenstock.
Yeah.
The whole audience knew every word.
Really?
And it became like this huge, like the place exploded.
Wow.
So exciting.
That's awesome.
So fun.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah, that was a really great moment. I mean,
That's beautiful.
yeah. It's funny, like it's there are a lot of like staying in terrible play stories and injury stories, but like it's I think most of the memories are just of like of being being fortunate.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's an
I don't know.
amazing thing to get to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's also this weird thing of like, how fortunate you are. You're having the best time of your life, but you're also really tired.
Yeah.
But but that being super tired and hungry also increases this almost euphoric
Totally.
Yeah.
experience, especially when you're on stage playing and you traveled for maybe 10 hours to get there.
Yeah.
And you're only playing for 10 people, but those 10 people are so into it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Like it sounds, and when we tell these stories, I think sometimes it sounds awful, horrible, nightmarish. But on top of all of this, even the worst experiences,
Yeah.
it's the best time of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't take it back for anything,
Yeah.
And I don't know if a lot of parents would say this, but like I would totally like I feel like that would be an important thing for my kid to do. You know what I mean? Like you just think like you learn so much and you see so much of the world. Like I definitely wouldn't have the perspective that I had on have on things if I hadn't like been to like literally the worst part of Detroit or like, you know, the border in El Paso or you know what I mean, or places that you just, you know what I mean, like places that you would never have seen otherwise, or experiences you never would have had. And then, just that feeling of like, we did this, you know. I've always sort of felt like touring is a little like the Fellowship of the Ring in the Lord of the Rings, you know, when you get together like this group of unlikely people and then go through this, like, you know, climb the snowy mountain.
Some on the way there.
Yeah, exactly. Climb the snowy mountain, you know, like go through the depths of the caves, you know. I mean, like there's something about touring that, especially literally sometimes, you know, you get stuck in the Rocky Mountains in the snow and that's some crazy shit.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But, so thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
This was fantastic.
Thanks for asking me.
Time.
You want to plug your different things that you're doing and where you can be found online or offline?
Yeah, what you got for us?
Or in space?
Yeah. Well, if you go to jefftobias.net.
Oh.
That's right.
.com was taken?
Oh, no.
Oh.
I'm a .net guy.
You're a .net guy. Okay.
Yeah. Chose .net.
A lot of people are. Chad, who we mentioned earlier, Emperor X, is also a .net guy.
Yeah. So, I mean...
So jefftobias.net.
Jefftobias.net is where you can find a whole bunch of music that I've written and performed on and a full discography of every recording I've been on and links where you can hear them and buy them and stuff.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Photos?
Maybe some photos, lots of videos.
The drunk photo up?
No. I don't know why that's not on there.
Link to that on the website.
Yeah. And Sunwatchers, we put out an LP. It's self-titled. It's on Castle Face Records, which is a label co-run by John Dwyer from the OCs.
Okay, cool.
That's on vinyl and CD. And you can buy that at castlefacerecords.com. And we're about to record a brand new one in August, which we're really stoked about.
Nice.
And also another album that's going to be coming out soon is myself and a lot of these other musicians who are in Sunwatchers. We also recorded an album with the now late saxophonist Arthur Doyle, who you may know from that Sonic Youth song, Arthur Doyle and the Mariah Carey and the Arthur Doyle hand cream.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, Arthur Doyle, but actually his legacy is much, much bigger than that. He was a really incredible free jazz tenor saxophonist who played with Sun Ra and Milford Graves and Sonny Murray and all kinds of other people. And we were in his last New York ensemble before he passed away. And so there's a live album coming out of music that we recorded at the Stone and at Issue Project Room. And that is coming out on Amish Records. It's Arthur Doyle and his new Quiet Screamers.
Okay.
And we're really, really proud of that.
Cool.
Sunwatchers and the Arthur Doyle record, those are like...
That's what's up next.
I'm sure you can find some We vs. Shark stuff if you go out there and look for it as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's still available, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
At least digitally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Look up some We vs. the Shark.
You can buy those. Those CDs are in stock.
In stock.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there are copies available.
Cool.
And you know what? I guess if I'm gonna bend people's ear, I'll just also say that the last Pegasus's album came out after we broke up. It was called Psychic Entourage, and we worked really, really hard on it. And it's also available digitally from Ernest Jennings Records, and that's a cool record.
Yeah.
If anyone's interested in anything that I've ever done.
I like that you say it's a cool record, and I'll say this, and this is why. So many musicians are afraid to call their own music good.
Oh. Right.
That's a big pet peeve of mine.
Right.
Or if you say like, "Hey, yeah, my album's great," then you're somehow viewed as like a
self-aggrandizing kind of character.
Right, dick or something.
Yeah.
But I hope you think your music is great.
Yeah.
You worked your ass off on it.
Yeah.
I love that you said that it's great. I really
Check out Pegasus XL.
Yeah, I mean,
Jennings Record Company.
That Psychic Entourage record is a good example of when an artist or whatever group of artists is sort of saying, we're making this because we don't hear this elsewhere.
Okay.
Cool. So whatever. People should give it a listen and see what they think.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thanks, guys.
And, good luck out there on the road again.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again.
Are we going to pay copyright? Can't wait.
And that's our show for this week. We'd like to say thanks again to SouthernShelter.com for allowing us to use some selections from their incredible live music archive. We'll be back next week with an interview I recorded several months back with Manor Astroman guitarist Sam Paulson. Load In, Load Out is a production of Kindercore Industries, and it's produced by me, Bill Fortenberry, and hosted by Cash Carter and Ryan Lewis. Check out Kindercore.com for show notes. You can find us on Twitter at Load In, Load Out. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.